Stretch here from the Sustainable Training Method. And in last week's blog post, I wrote about recreational athletes, stress, and protein intake. Now, stress is a huge topic, and in this post, my aim was to talk more about the impact stress has on our body composition and how what you eat, or more to the point, what you don't eat, can increase your body fat and decrease your fat-free mass. Definitely something you don't want. If you're chronically stressed, your fat-free mass literally starts to break down. Stress researchers call this wear and tear the allostatic load. The fat-free mass breakdown is caused in part by collagen proteins being used faster than they can be replaced. Research suggests that chronic stress may contribute to obesity through the direct mechanisms of causing people to eat more unhealthy foods, or indirectly by decreasing sleep, decreasing exercise tolerance, and affecting blood sugar management. Your stress response impacts the autonomous nervous system. The higher your stress levels, the greater the sympathetic nervous system response. This fight or flight response requires greater levels of energy to stand and fight the tiger or to run away from the tiger. If you're not eating enough of the right foods to meet the energy demands, your body will start to break down your fat-free mass and use it for energy. This is not what you want. One of the worst things you can do if you're struggling with stress is to go on a diet or follow the mainstream health and fitness advice to eat less and move more. Dieting is a stress. Eating less is a stress. Moving more, you guessed it, is a stress. When you are struggling with stress, it doesn't make sense to be adding additional stress to the body. It's a much better idea to focus on supporting your body with nourishing, nutrient-dense foods and a sustainable training practice. As previously mentioned, stress can screw with your blood sugar management. High-protein diets have been shown to have a stabilizing effect on blood sugar and lead to a number of beneficial changes in a wide range of metabolic, cardiovascular, and inflammatory markers, from insulin sensitivity to cholesterol and triglycerides to C-reactive protein. If you're under a lot of stress and experiencing some of the symptoms listed in the blog post, you should start to experiment with increasing your protein intake. Somewhere between 25 to 35% of your daily calories will be a good place to start. The higher end of this scale, 30 to 35%, would be for recreational athletes experiencing unhealthy weight loss. So this is the loss of fat-free mass. Metabolic problems, or doing extreme training, high frequency, high volume, and/or high intensity. The lower end of this scale, 25 to 30%, would be for recreational athletes doing moderate to vigorous intense exercise 3 to 4 times a week. If you're under a lot of stress, it is essential to eat foods that contain collagen. Collagen is a protein that can be absorbed by the body where it is used to rebuild fat-free mass, connective tissue, muscle, bone, gut lining, skin, and more. In our very diet-focused culture, where losing weight and looking good is often prized above all else, we are often quick to jump on board with the mainstream dieting, and we have very little understanding of the health implications. As an example, preliminary research suggests that low carbohydrate and ketogenic diets can increase cortisol. Long-term restriction of carbohydrates could potentially lead to chronic elevation of cortisol and subsequently adrenal fatigue. Some research suggests that increasing carbohydrates in the context of real whole foods may reduce circulating cortisol and dampen the stress-related cortisol response. If you're feeling stressed, you should start experimenting with a moderate carbohydrate intake, 75 to 100 grams of carbohydrates plus the required carbohydrates for your training frequency, volume, and intensity per day. If you want to experiment with adding more carbs to your diet, be sure to choose nutrient-dense carbohydrates, such as potatoes, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, plantains, taro, whole fruit. If you are feeling stressed and you're following a reduced calorie diet or a low carb diet, trying to lose weight, your well-intended diet may have the opposite effect, causing you to put on additional body fat due to rising cortisol levels. That said, these are just general guidelines, and you need to experiment with different percentages to see what works best for you. I talked about this in a lot more detail on the blog post, and if you're struggling with stress, I'd suggest you check it out.